And welcome into the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. JD Martinez could be on his way to the Texas Rangers. According to John Heyman, the two sides are negotiating on a non-guaranteed deal. Remember, Texas is adamant about staying underneath the tax threshold this year, which means they have roughly $3 to $5 million, depending on who you ask, as far as how much money they have to spend. They're also going to be looking for impact bats at the deadline and a true top-end closer as well. Lots on that shopping list there for Texas, a very small budget. We'll see how they decide to thread the needle there. But keep your eyes peeled on the Texas Rangers, as they have now clearly established themselves as a buyer here at the deadline. Now, as far as another team that's established themselves as a clear buyer is the Seattle Mariners. They view this as a year they can really compete. They're 2 games above 500, currently sitting in the wild card positioning, and it sounds like their ownership group is going to crack open the piggy bank just a little bit more. How much remains to be seen. That and much, much more ahead next here at the Upside. And welcome in, everybody, on a late Thursday evening to MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe. Really means a lot to us. If you hit that thumbs up on the video, goes a long way to getting more and more people in the chat. The more people that hit that like button, the more fun the chat does get the further we go along. So we'll be getting into a number of different topics, including the Texas Rangers and Mariners, but we'll also get into MLB Power Rankings as well. If you're new here, be sure to follow us over on X at UpsideSN and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network as well. Turn on your notifications for whenever we do go live. We'll start with the Texas Rangers and the pursuit of JD Martinez. This one honestly came out of left field. I'm a little bit surprised JD Martinez was still on the open market. Honestly, I'd kind of forgotten him, kind of sitting out there waiting for a job. But, he's always been a very good professional hitter. We'll dig into his numbers here in just a moment. But just thinking about what the Texas Rangers need right now is absolutely got to begin with offense. We thought this year was going to be much better. Looked like they had addressed some of their biggest needs for some power. And for whatever reason, things have just not worked out for Texas offensively. Now, granted, certain players have certainly turned it around. Looking at Evan Carter, Marcus Semien now looks to be a productive player in the lineup as well. Josh Young, if you base it off his last couple of games, looks a little bit better as well. And then, of course, Adolis Garcia, one guy I thought that would be a very good candidate for them to try to save some payroll on this year. Looks like he is going to be in the lineup going forward, especially now that they have considered themselves to be a buyer here at the deadline. Now, let's go ahead and look into the numbers on JD Martinez. What does he bring to the table? Well, get Colin Coward off the screen there. All right, he's been in the league for a very long time now, but I remember him most from some of those trade deadlines of years past. We're talking about the trade deadline where he goes from Detroit, I believe, to Arizona, kind of lifting them into playoff contention. That are all by himself, a 2.4 WAR after he was traded there as well. But the last several years, Boston, he performed very well. Dodgers performed as a 2-WAR player. And then last year with the Mets, only a half a WAR. But looking at his numbers anyway, 235 average, 320 on base. So his on base is pretty solid. Slug of 406 kind of dropped off the planet there. So got to wonder how much slug he's really got left. But a professional hitter nonetheless. A non-guaranteed contract basically says, hey, come on in. You look great in kind of the tune-up to getting up to the big league level. We'll put you in the major league lineup and things work out great. Obviously, we'll pay you. If things don't go well, then we can lose you, or we can go ahead and cut you for nothing. So I think this is kind of an all-risk, kind of a very low-risk, high-reward type of thing here for Texas, depending on how much they ultimately give him guaranteed. If this deal is truly non-guaranteed and they're just getting him whatever the minimum is to kind of let him get ramped up and into game shape, that's pittance compared to what they'd have to pay him if they gave him a fully guaranteed deal. But 406 as a slug last year, that's not really moving the needle for me if I'm a Rangers fan. Now, this does give them a right-handed option to Jock Peterson at the DH spot. Do you really want to have 2 full-time DHs on your roster, though, if you're Texas, especially when Jock Peterson's going to be there next year? Honestly, I think the Rangers are just so desperate for offense right now on a non-guaranteed deal. I think they'll take it. Once Jock Peterson gets back and looks like he's healthy, if they have to have both on the roster, maybe we get to the trade deadline and JD Martinez, say he's hitting, I don't know, 280 with, I don't know, 5 home runs by the trade deadline. That could be something that could be of interest to other teams at the deadline if they decide to hold on to Jock Peterson and are unable to move him and that contract. If they are able to get out of that contract and save themselves some money, maybe attach some assets to it to kind of alleviate some of the cost there. But that'd be one way to kind of both save themselves some money, allow themselves some flexibility at the deadline to acquire whatever they need, and then of course, looking forward into next offseason, solve some issues for them financially as well, to where they're not moving on from some of their core pieces like a Seager or a Simeon, which I don't think they would. But we kind of quash all those rumors right there if you save the money on Jock this offseason. So something to kind of keep an eye on there is JD Martinez to the Texas Rangers. Second item, anyway, was the Seattle Mariners and their now willingness from ownership to add payroll. Now, how much remains to be seen? They were said to add, or they only said to have about $15 million with which to work this offseason. They added about $11 million in the offseason. Then they took on the $3.7 million left on Leody Tavares' deal from the Texas Rangers. That obviously didn't work out. He has now been outrighted to AAA. But they're looking for a corner infield bat. They're also looking for some bullpen help, as hard as that is to believe, as the Mariners have consistently been very good in the bullpen. But, I think they see this as an opportunity to really compete in a very winnable American League this year. I don't think they necessarily are worried about the division this year so much as winning the entire American League. When they get to the World Series, they'll count their chickens at that time and just see how many have come home to roost. So as far as the Mariners go, getting a bat in there I think would be very good for them. I think this offense is performing way above its skis. It's going to come back down to earth. Cal Raleigh looks like the second coming of Barry Bonds this year. Just kind of give you an indication of how good he has been as a catcher. That has been a very underreported story across Major League Baseball and honestly the entirety of professional sports. What he has been doing in Seattle is nothing short of amazing, and Seattle should be commended for kind of developing him, keeping him in the lineup and allowing him to really kind of develop as a player by keeping his bat in the lineup and not just doing the platoon thing. Now, of course, catchers and whatnot are kind of independent of that anyway, but Cal Raleigh does catch his fair number of games, maybe a little bit more so, and I think the way Seattle really has deployed him and his usage and his ability to handle the pitching staff and his leadership in the locker room really are things that kind of showcase what kind of a player Cal Raleigh has become. And on the field, just hitting home runs left, right, and center. He looks absolutely fantastic this year. Now, for the Mariners, like I said, looking for corner, infield, and bullpen. There's not a lot of infield help out there. There's not a lot of bats out there at all. We mentioned that Rafael Devers was traded about a week or so ago anyway. That was probably going to be the biggest trade deadline addition anybody makes from an offense perspective. That would have been a great fit for the Seattle Mariners. Obviously, they would have been able to take the entirety of that deal. But, they are looking for some interesting options here. I would imagine they look at the DFA, the guys sent through waivers. For instance, Ken Delario, if he ultimately goes through free agency, maybe they scoop him up for nothing on free agency. But they will be active, I'm sure, in all trade negotiations. Maybe a Nathaniel Lowe from the Washington Nationals could make some sense as well. But there'll be no shortage of corner infield bats available. Just how many of them are impact, though, will be the bigger question. All right, appreciate you guys joining us. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe. Cooper Flagg drafted last night by the Dallas Mavericks, #1 overall. We get an almost no-hitter from Jacob deGrom last night as well. Just a great time to be a Texas sports fan right now, especially considering the chaos that happened a few months back with the Luka Doncic trade. Cowboys heartbreak again. Shocker, right? But, I think it's just an interesting time right now for, Dallas area sports fans. So we'll see if they're able to kind of correct the ship, and keep things going. For instance, the Dallas Stars look like they're getting close to hiring their coach, Glenn Gulletson, former coach of theirs about 10 years ago, back when the team really didn't have any shot to really compete. He was a rookie coach at the time, thrown into the deep into the pool anyway, and really couldn't swim. And ultimately has turned into a very productive coach, ran the Edmonton power play. I'm sure that's what they're looking for him to kind of bring to the Dallas Stars, but we'll see if they keep Neil Graham as well. his specialty is also on the power play. So maybe the two guys can put their heads together and really get that part of the game going, and hopefully get more or translate that to more success in the postseason. That's where their season will be judged after making it to 3 straight Western Conference Finals. Dallas Cowboys football is about to get underway. Everybody's football is about to get underway here in about a month or so with training camps and so forth. Going to be fun to see some of the position battles we see out there, but should be some fun this year in the NFL. I'm not the biggest NFL guy. I think it's way oversaturated in the national media, and that's part of the reason why I just can't stand the endless talking about the NFL. But we'll get into some of that. We'll do some fantasy football drafts with you guys as well as we build up to the 2025 regular season. MLB trade deadline about a month away now. It's getting closer and closer. Before you know it, we'll get there. We've already seen the biggest bat in my mind move. Some of the biggest arms kind of came off the market today with Tyler Mahle, among others, basically being pulled back from the deadline discussions here. Unless Texas is looking to offload some salary and try to add another starter here, going about it a different way, I just don't see them moving any of their starters that they have right now. I think they're trying to push things forward to try to compete this year. I've reported pretty much over the last several weeks now, I say several, the past couple weeks anyway, that Chris Young and Bruce Bochy are both some of the most competitive people you'll see in Major League Baseball. They are not ones to necessarily go with the whole selling model. They certainly aren't going to tank on a season. Even if they did sell at the deadline, I think they would still try to push everything they got to try to get to the postseason. That being said, the question about whether or not the Rangers would sell at the deadline or buy has been answered today quite resoundingly with their pursuit of J.D. Martinez. While it is likely to be a non-guaranteed deal, I think this sends every indication from the Texas Rangers front office that they will not be parting with any of their assets right now. If you're looking to take on, say, a Tyler Mahle and just capitalize on what he's brought to the Texas Rangers, you're going to have to give up a pretty penny, and I think it's going to cost you a piece off of your Major League roster to kind of fill a hole for the Rangers, whether that be a bat or maybe a late-inning reliever, whatever the case may be. The Rangers will not be, quote-unquote, selling at this year's deadline. So let's go ahead and get into our MLB Power Rankings here in just a moment. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe. If you guys are new here, follow us over on X at Upside Ascend and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network as well. And let's go ahead and get into it. All right, if you're new here, we kind of go through our every single week. We're going to try to do an updated MLB Power Rankings now that we are back live every single week. Throughout the work week anyway, we're going to be bringing you our MLB Power Rankings Wednesday or Thursday anyway, kind of keeping you guys updated as to where teams currently are with their rosters. This will not necessarily reflect how they are in the standings. This will more reflect where we see them right now. If teams were to face head-to-head and what their teams look like going into the future here. Now, I can't necessarily predict how, say, an injury coming back off say a guy coming back off an injury list, say in August or September, is going to affect anything right now. That's way too far in the future to really be accurate. But if we're talking about somebody coming back next week, that's something that we will be factoring in to our power rankings. As you can see, the Dodgers by and far, far and away have been one of the top teams across Major League Baseball this year, and on my rankings, it's reflected here. Kind of took a little bit of a dip after everybody expected them to pretty much win 120 games before the season. Obviously, looks a lot less likely now. They, of course, could get on some heck of a run, but I just don't think they're going to get it. I think they're going to try to do just enough to get into the postseason, make sure everybody's healthy, and try to win another one. And I think there's a very good chance they're the team that comes out of the National League. But let's go ahead and update our rankings for this week. As you know, we'll start all the way down at number 30. All right. Let's go ahead and look at our standings, kind of look at the week that was, and just kind of see where teams are currently at. Tigers, Astros, Yankees, no change as far as the division leaders. 7-3 7-3 over the last 10 anyway for the Astros with a 4-game win streak. The run differential is getting a little bit better. The offense is starting to get there. They do face the Cubs tomorrow, so we'll see how that one goes for the Astros. Yankees, 46 and 34, 4 and 6. They're kind of backsliding a little bit here. We knew this offense wasn't going to be able to keep at this rate for this long. Same thing for the Detroit Tigers. I just don't trust that offense to continue to perform at this level. And I think the bullpen will eventually regress as well. I think they're going to be one of the key teams that's going to have to add at the deadline if they're going to hope to remain at the top of the division there in a mildly competitive AL Central. But I think the bigger question for the Tigers is if they're trying to compete this year to get to the World Series, they're certainly going to need more firepower. They're going to need more help in the bullpen more than anything else. Wild card, relatively unmoved. Rays, Jays, and Mariners in the 3 wild card spots. Mariners 5-5 in their last 10. Same with the Jays. Meanwhile, the Rays, a 7-3, last 10, winners of 3 straight. Things are looking up for them, and they're getting some great pitching performances. Rasmussen, among others, just giving great performances for a much-needed pitching staff there in Tampa Bay. They go up against the Baltimore Orioles. Should be a nice series for them, but we shall see. The Jays anyway, 6 games above 500 and sitting in wild card positioning. They just got Max Scherzer back, and the key for them is just keeping him healthy and continuing to add a little bit here and there at the deadline if possible. Mariners, 41 and 39. For me, this is kind of a ho-hum, streaky, typical Mariners season so far. One week they're, the best team in baseball. The next week they look like they can't hit their way out of a paper bag. Pitching hasn't been nearly, and I mean nearly as good as it was expected to be. Remember, we talked all offseason long about this being the year Seattle had the best rotation in its franchise history. We talked about how that had been the case last year, and then this year was supposed to be even better with the development, all those kinds of things. Obviously has not worked in their favor so far. Some of the first few teams out: Guardians, Angels, Rangers, Red Sox in this mix here. I think a couple of those teams are going to be not necessarily buyers at the deadline, but teams that either stand pat or sell. The Guardians and Angels are those two. Rangers have declared themselves as a buyer. Red Sox, even with them moving off of Rafi Devers' contract, I think they will still add at the deadline, even though they're 2 games under 500. The rest of the American League: Twins, Royals, Orioles, A's, and White Sox don't exactly leave a lot to be inspired about. The Twins continue to be in their free fall, 3-7 in their last 10. Royals 4-6. Three of their wins came against a struggling team in Texas at home. For whatever reason, Texas right now is just the ballpark. Globe Life Field in Texas right now is just absolutely atrocious to play in, as far as hitting for any type of an average. Batted balls in play. Just there's a lot of numbers that say that ball is just not flying in Texas right now. And they're still looking into why that is this year. It wasn't the case last year. Offense wasn't this far down. Last year was kind of a middle-of-the-pack ballpark to hit in. This year it is dead last by a mile. So we'll see what what they come up with as far as an explanation for that is. That's not just Texas, by the way. That's the opponents they're playing. The numbers are just so far depressed from any other stadium in the league right now. I'm sure the league will eventually look into what's causing that, whether that be the air conditioners, blowing it on the field, knocking the ball down, or whatever the case may be. I'm sure they'll get to the bottom of it one way or the other. But as I mentioned, Twins, Royals, Orioles, A's, and White Sox likely to be your sellers. On the NL side, division still pretty much the same right now: Cubs, Mets, and Dodgers. Mets, to me, it looks like Soto could be starting to get a little bit better, but 3-7 in their last 10. They aren't playing nearly at the level that they were. Phillies kind of steadied their ship a little bit, but 3-game losing streak right now. They are, I believe, just about a half game back of that division right now. But Brewers and Brewers and Padres round out your wild card teams. Padres, I don't think will be adding necessarily at the deadline. I think they'll be looking to retool this roster. So we'll see which directions they decide to go with. As far as the Phillies, I think they're a very solid team right now. You'd love to see some of their pitchers like Anola start to come around here as we get closer and closer to the second half of the season. But we'll see. But so far, Luzardo's been great for them, and I was certainly wrong on that one. He has been worth every penny that they paid for him. As far as the Brewers, they're right in the thick of it right now, 7-3 in their last 10. Lots of questions for me about their pitching staff and whether it will hold up, but we shall see. As far as the teams that are some of the first out, Giants, of course, made the addition of Devers. They thought this was a real opportune year for them to try to make a run at it. I think that's That's a fairly reasonable assessment considering where they were offensively. They needed to bring in a power bat. There wasn't, to me, an obvious guy better than Rafi Devers on the market, and so they just went ahead and make the decision to get that money, or to take it on the player and just see if they can make him work wherever they decide to deploy him defensively. As far as the rest of the teams here, Cardinals, Reds, Diamondbacks say they're not selling. Braves say they're not selling as well, even though they're 7 games back of the last wild card. I find that hard to believe. If they continue to free fall as they have so far this season, I think this thing could really get out of hand really quickly here for the Braves. If they're 6-4 in their last 10, we'll see if they can kind of keep this up here. Diamondbacks are always loath to sell at the deadline. I think they'll try to retool just a little bit. The 4 selling teams clearly are going to be the Marlins, Nationals, Pirates, and Rockies. Paul Skeens ain't going anywhere. Marlins, Sandy Alcantara, I think they're going to end up holding on to him. Nationals have a couple of rentals that they could sell at the deadline, and Rockies have one good bullpen arm they could go ahead and jettison as well. Let's go ahead and get into our power rankings, though. At the very bottom, we've had pretty much the Rockies fairly consistently every single week. 18 wins so far, 4-6 in their last 10, 3 straight losses, and they're going up against Milwaukee now. I think I'm still going to put them in dead last right now. Rockies, they got off to they recently had a 7-7 stretch, but I don't think it was enough, for me at least, to elevate them above the other clubs. Nationals with Davey Martinez have really not played well recently. We'd like to see them kind of shake things up there, but it sounds like he will ultimately be staying for the long term, unless something obvious changes here. So, with that being said, number 29, White Sox are going to be in this conversation as well. A little tougher of a week. I think I'm still going to put the Nationals here. I think the White Sox are very clearly the next team. Pirates, I think, are right there because Skeens can only do so much. And I'm not putting them above the A's. So our bottom 4 pretty much unchanged so far. Marlins, A's, Angels, not bad actually. Marlins are in this discussion. Marlins and A's. 4-6. Marlins are playing better. But the A's certainly have a better player on their roster now in Wilson and a couple other really nice assets. I think the Marlins are a little further away, but I'm going to go ahead and put the Marlins unchanged as well. A's got to be in this mix for the next one. Angels got to be in the mix here. Honestly, I think these last few teams are pretty much still chalk. Angels and Orioles. I'm going to still stick with the Angels. Well, Angels have had a nice week. So where do I end up putting them? 7-3. I think the Orioles I got to put in here. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and flip-flop these. Orioles. The Braves so far this week. Let's see, where are they? Or this go around. 6-4. All right, I'm putting the Orioles. Diamondbacks. Yeah, okay. Pretty much all of my bottom 20 have not changed so far this week. I thought I'd have more movement there, but I think we're just splitting hairs at that point. Alright, so this is where the Rangers fell last week, and I think I'm going to move them up just a little bit. Not into my top 5, obviously, but to me they played a little bit better brand of baseball. Twins, I think, have got to be in this range because of their free fall right now. I think that's where I'm going to go. Twins are my next option here. Royals, they just swept the Rangers at home. Royals, Cardinals. Cardinals are 7-3. They're playing good baseball. They're going to go up a little bit here. Reds, meanwhile, 6-4. They're playing a better brand of baseball. I like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the Royals at number 19. I think this next spot probably could be the Rangers. Let us know in the chat where you guys would put these guys. If you guys are new here, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. It means a lot to us. Feel free to join us in the chat. Thank you. All right. Is this where we put the Rangers, I think, next? Guardians, 5-5. Angels. Nope, I got a duplicate again. Maybe I'm crazy and just not seeing it. Okay. Guardians, Rangers, Angels are kind of in this mix. I'm going to go ahead and put the Angels because I just don't trust their pitching staff. Guardians, I think, have a good chance here. Leaning Guardians. Yeah, I'm going Guardians here. I think the Rangers are probably my next team here. Brewers, Blue Jays, Red Sox. Red Sox could go down here. 4-6, losers of 5 straight. Devers' loss is showing a little bit more. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do the Red Sox here. Then I'll go ahead and do Rangers. Cardinals. They're 7-3 though. Where should we go with this one? I'm taking the Cardinals back out. I think they should be a little higher actually. Reds I think could fit in here. Let's go ahead and do that. Reds. Anybody else not in the playoffs that I haven't gotten already? Giants, Cardinals. Giants haven't played great either. I think it's their pitching more than anything else that's going to start faltering. Giants I had at number 8. I think they're probably going to fall outside of the top 10 this week. How far down? Cardinals are playing well. Welcome in, Anthony, a coin that reports that I've seen about 6 hours ago, Michael. The 2 favorites of Sandy are the Cubs and Dodgers. but this report said the Dodgers are more likely. Absolutely. We talked about that this offseason about what the Marlins are looking for. They're looking for guys 20 and younger. They're looking for guys double A or under. They aren't looking for anybody that's MLB ready. They're looking for guys with very high upside that kind of fit a certain mold that they're looking for. And the Dodgers farm system is littered with players that fit that description. Cubs, meanwhile, don't really have the assets to get there unless they give up something that's nowhere near worth what they should be. But the Dodgers, to me, are far more likely. All right, so let's go ahead and put Mariners could be in this mix. Mariners are 5-5. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do Giants because of their recent struggles. Cardinals. Blue Jays and Brewers. Blue Jays are 5-5 over the last 10. Brewers are 7-3. I just worry about their pitching staff a little bit more though. So Blue Jays are getting healthier, so I'll say the Brew Crew falters a little bit here. Blue Jays, Padres, and Rays. Did I double up again somewhere? Making sure I got all the teams in here because I feel like I'm missing one. Maybe I'm not. Padres, Rays. Yeah, I still feel like I'm missing one. Or that I got one too many. But let's keep the show rolling. Okay. Mariners got to be in this conversation. Be helpful if I could spell, of course. Okay. Let's see. Mariners, Rays, and Padres are the teams that have to go up in here. Okay, so we are good now. Padres and Rays. How have the Padres been doing recently? 5-5, winners of their last two, very low runs or run differential, going against Cincinnati, who is playing a better brand of baseball now. I do think the Padres will be selling some financial pieces off of their roster. That's a tough one. Rays have played so far above their heads, I think it will regress. But which one do we put first? I'll go ahead and say Padres fit here. They're a tough division, a lot harder to get through. Ethan, I don't know why Texas didn't sign J.D. Martinez in the offseason, because he's off of a down year last year. A 4.06 slug last year does not leave you much to be excited about. But a non-guaranteed deal is the idea here of where they're going with the deal. If he does sign the deal, non-guaranteed, probably going to start in the minors, get his game up to speed, and then see how he does in the majors. If things don't work, they'll cut him for nothing. But as far as JD Martinez himself, the player, I think he's a consummate professional, very much like Jock Peterson's. For me, the optimism of a Jock Peterson is kind of what I see again here to a much lesser degree with JD Martinez. This is not a finishing move, but it is a move that gives them somebody to help out on the offensive end, or at least with their run scoring anyway, while Jock Peterson and others are injured or struggling. Okay. The next team to me, the Rays, the Mets, got to be in this conversation. Mets are what, 3-7? Yeah, I'll go ahead and say the Mets. Yep. I think the Rays fit right above them. And then we're down to our final 6 once again. All right. Ethan, well, I wanted Paul Goldschmidt, and look at him. Everybody said I was stupid for wanting him down on the Rangers. Well, I'll put it this way. Paul Goldschmidt, there was no guarantee he was going to turn to this version of Paul Goldschmidt. Now, there have been signs that his bat could be slowing down a little bit compared to where he was. But Paul Goldschmidt's always going to be a productive hitter no matter where he goes. I think the Rangers just already made the decision to go a little bit cheaper there and save some money with Jake Berger, but Goldschmidt would have cost them way more money, and they didn't have the financial wherewithal to do something like that. But, okay, let's look at these last 6 teams here. Astros and Yankees, we'll start with those 2 teams and kind of compare the two. Very comparable teams, or schedules anyway. I think the win streak by the Astros works in their favor for right now. Yankees, to me, certainly have played way above their skis, but I do think it'll start to slow down for them. So I'm going to go ahead and put the Yankees. Oop, come on now. Next, Astros got to be in this conversation. Cubs. Where are the Cubs right now? 5-5. Ho-hum. Astros are 7-3. Their run differential is coming around. Their offense is getting there. Paul Goldschmidt was way cheaper than Jock Peterson. He's a DH. What are you talking about? Well, yeah, but I'm talking about JD Martinez, not Jock Peterson as far as cost. Jock Peterson was way more expensive, but to me, I wouldn't have done the Jock Peterson deal either. I think the idea of saving money was with Jake Berger instead of Paul Goldschmidt. If you're looking at DHs, that's when you're looking JD Martinez versus Jock. Berger, to me, was the reason why they decided not to go after Paul Goldschmidt, because that's what was already filled up. Now, if you're putting Goldschmidt as DH instead of Jock Peterson, I would have preferred that as well. So I do get that point as well. But for me, I would have not done the Jock Peterson deal to begin with. I think they were going after pure power, and Goldschmidt's numbers did show decline in power, which is why they didn't go after him. Yankees obviously saw something, were able to correct it, and he looks much better. Obviously, being rejuvenated in New York does help him. But I do think that Jock Peterson's deal was a bit of a miss as well, based off of what they ultimately had to give him, as far as both contract, length, the option included, all those kinds of things. I think were misses for me. I think there are better bats that you could have gotten for very comparable money, or less than that, and Paul Goldschmidt is one of those guys. But I don't think the Rangers necessarily viewed him as a first baseman in their pursuit, because I think that's where they were ideally going to use Jake Berger, and that's where they have used Jake Berger. As far as a DH, I think they wanted somebody who's comfortable playing in that DH role, like a Jock Peterson, who was used to platooning at times as well, to kind of get him up in a pinch-hitting spot if necessary in certain series in the playoffs, late-inning situations in the regular season as well. So I just think that they were looking for a certain archetype of player, and Paul Goldschmidt was not it. Meanwhile, I don't think that the correct answer, though, was going after a Jock Peterson. But water, bridge, all those kinds of things. All right. Astros, Cubs, Tigers, Phillies. And then, of course, the Dodgers. Do you think Paul Goldschmidt could be the Rangers' option this offseason as a DH? Possibly, but I think they're going to go with a more proven pitcher first. I think they're going to look for a more superstar aircraft carrier type of hitter more than anything else. But to answer your question, if they, pass on all those options or the things don't work out or whatever the finance situation turns out to be, Goldschmidt could then be plan C or plan D. But I don't think he's plan A or B. I think there's other options that they're going to try to pursue. I think they'll ultimately end up snagging one of those better options. All right, Cubs, 5-5. Offense, of course, great. Pitching staff leaves a little bit desired for. Tigers 5-5. Astros 7-3. Run differential really works in the Tigers' favor there, though. All right, so I think the worst out of that group anyway. While their offense is getting better, I just don't think it's all the way back. So I'm just going to move the Astros up one spot. Phillies, meanwhile, I didn't look at them. 5-5, losers of 3 straight, and going to Atlanta. That's a tough spot to play. Cubs are 5-5. Tigers 5-5. Dodgers here 8-2. Winners of 4 straight. Shohei's coming back. Cubs, Tigers, Phillies. I think the Cubs I'd probably put right back at number 4. Tigers and Phillies. That's a tough one. American League has a lot less. I would guess I would call them stalwarts. Locked into postseason spots. I think the wild card race is going to be a little bit crazy on the American League side. On the National League, I think we already know what our divisions are going to look like and what our wild card pretty much will look like. And then you only have a couple of teams that are in that wild card window, if you will, or at least in the hunt, if you will. Okay. Tigers and Phillies. Phillies 5-5. Tigers 5-5. Losers of 3 straight. I'm going to go ahead and put the Phillies one spot down just for the time being. That means I'm putting the Tigers one spot up. Dang. There we go. And then you guys know what that means. The Dodgers, once again, are number 1. Dodgers just look like they're finally hitting their stride this year, and there's nowhere that, to me, that this team pretty much doesn't have a weakness. I think the biggest weakness has got to be health. But I think if everybody is healthy, this team is far and away has the most talent. The most collection of talent, the biggest collection of talent we've seen as well. Going out there and adding whatever they needed over and over and over again to a bullpen. Same thing in the lineup, and I think they'll do so again at the deadline. But Dodgers again, number 1. Tigers 2, Phillies 3, Cubs 4, Astros 5 are your top 5. Yankees 6, Rays 7, Mets 8, Padres 9, and Blue Jays 10. Do you think JD Martinez is going to take the deal, or is he just going to stay retired? I think there's a good chance he takes it, because I think there's a chance that the Rangers flip him at the deadline if he hits well and they bring back other pieces. They start hitting well, and then they just say, hey, look, we got guaranteed money locked up in these guys. Let's go ahead and trade you or release you or whatever the case may be. But I do think JD Martinez will take the deal with the Texas Rangers. He's the only team, they're the only team that we've heard in connection with him recently. I think the Rangers should trade Jacob deGrom, to be honest, maybe to the Tigers. That's not going to happen for one. Bruce Bochy's never going to let you do that, and Chris Young doesn't want to do that anyway, even if they did want to save money, whatever the case may be. That being said, Jacob deGrom, an AL Cy Young candidate this year, could very well be the best pitcher in the entire league right now. He looks like he's Cy Young level right now, through a no-hitter through 7 last night. Gave up a hit in the 8th inning, kind of spoiled that, but his first ever one-hitter as well. And good on Jacob deGrom getting back and healthy. Let's just hope he stays that way. The rest of your top 10 anyway, 6 Yankees, 7 Rays, 8 Mets, 9 Padres, 10 Blue Jays. And then you get into your kind of your in the hunt teams for wild card positioning, all those kinds of things there. And then your developmental teams. All right. Appreciate you guys joining us. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe. If you are new here, we'll be live again tomorrow night, so be sure to join us late tomorrow evening. If you guys had some fun watching the draft, really appreciate you guys checking out our video we did last night, breaking down some of the crazy NBA draft news that we saw. And it's going to be a fun day tomorrow with you guys. Hoping to talk some trades with you guys. We'll get into some more about these power rankings and address any questions you guys may have with us. Ethan, Rangers are just as likely to get Skubal as they are to trade DeGrom. I'd say that's fairly accurate. No way Skubal goes to Texas, just like there's no way I think DeGrom goes anywhere. But we shall see. You never know. But if you guys wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up on the video, it goes a long way to helping us out. Got about 16 of you guys with us right now. So if you guys wouldn't mind hitting that right before we head out for the evening, hit those hearts in the chat, and we'll be back live again tomorrow night. Y'all stay safe out there, everybody. Take care.